Good morning. This is Bedrick coming to you again from my studio and gallery here in Cathedral City. Today I am coming to you with a lesson about color. So when you buy your colors, they come a particular way in the bottle, and sometimes they're beautiful, but sometimes you want to mix a color to perhaps get a certain feeling in your work, or match your couch, or there's a certain color you saw that you'd love to use. And so today I'm going to be teaching you more about color mixing. But that said, I also want to talk to you about finding variation in your colors. So if basically I wanted to work in this color, I probably would still bring in some of this color and this color to the area that has that color, just to build more interest. And you can see that a bit in the painting behind me. If you look at any one color area, there is variation within it. And that's for dark colors, but even for kind of like taupey colors. You might want to say, well, this is basically the color I want, but in certain areas you might want to let it go a little bit more towards pink, or a darker beige, or a grayer one. And so today we're going to be talking about how you push your color to be exactly the one that you want. Okay, so often when you buy paints, they're sort of bright colors. They're not primary, because primary is just red, yellow, blue, but they're bright. And that's because it's hard to take a color from dull to bright, but it's easier to take a color from bright to dull. And so I've chosen two colors as an example for today that are sort of on the duller, quieter side. And you might just think, oh, well, to make that color, I just mix blue and white. But you'll see that there's a lot more to it than that. And the same thing here, you might go, well, I could just use brown and white. But again, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So we'll start with the blue color. And going to use a palette knife for this, but if you don't have one, you can just use your paintbrush. And my paints come in these squeezy bottles, but you just use yours however it comes. So I'm going to go ahead and start with some white, because I know that it definitely has white in it. Now I have a variety of blues to choose amongst. I'm going to choose the one that's probably the most like what you have. So let me put down a little bit of that. And all right, so let's just see to start what happens when we mix those colors. I know, because I've been doing this for a long time, it takes very little blue to change that pile of white into light blue. So I'm really going to take very little. Do you see how little I took? And go ahead and mix it in here. Now the key to color mixing is to talk to yourself as you go. So here, yes, it's a lovely light blue, but it's not as yellow as this color. Can you see what I mean? That there's sort of a yellow tinge to this compared to this one. You could also say that this one is purpler or brighter. But in terms of the amount of blue that's in here, this one still feels too white. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit more blue, and really so little, just to pick up, even a little more, just to pick up the amount of blue that's in this tint. Now the nice thing about using a palette knife is you can re-scrape it into a pile as you go, which is hard when you're using a paintbrush to not spread it all out and have it dry up right away. So that's a good reason to mix in a container. But I really wanted you to be able to see what I'm doing here. So the words that I used before was this feels more yellow. So that tells me I need to put some yellow onto my palette. And again, I'm just going to use really a little because I still want this to stay blue. But I want it to get a little bit more yellow, a little warmer. Okay, got closer, right? Still not quite there, but close. Okay, so maybe a tiny bit more yellow. Okay, so now my brain is saying, wow, you know, that is very close, but somehow this still feels browner or even a little bit redder. Now that's a really hard concept to understand, I know. But when you mix the three colors, the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue together, the thing that you arrive at is brown. So let's just do that for a second so you see that, and then we'll go back to mixing this color. Remember, it's always important to keep your tools nice and clean with the acrylic paint so that they don't dry up on there. Okay, so if I wanted to make a brown color, I would take some yellow and some red and some blue and mix those all together. Now often when you mix brown color, one of the colors, the tint is stronger in the paint. See how this is looking green? Well, that tells me I need more red, because if it's the three together, yellow and blue make green. So if I want this to turn brown, I need more red in it. Now sometimes it's hard to see when it's such a dark color that indeed it is a brown and not a black. So I will just steal a little bit of white to lighten it up so you can see that. And then I'll also be able to tell if I need more red, more yellow, or more blue. Okay, suddenly it has a little bit of a purple gray tinge to it. So that tells me red and blue are purple, that I need more yellow. And some paints don't mix together as, you know, as beautifully. You might have to try a different red or a different blue if yours aren't making a beautiful brown. But I think these are going to make a nice brown. Just keep talking in my head. What does it not quite feel right? It still has a little bit of a green tinge to it, so maybe one more dip of red. Now that's almost a Hershey's chocolate bar brown. And that's just from the red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors. So now that you know what is in brown and you see this color next to this color, can you tell that there's a little more brown in this? So I can just take a little of my brown or a very, very little of my red and add it into here to dull it out even a little bit more. Still a little lighter. Maybe I need to add a little more blue so that the kind of the variation on the blue is getting closer, but it was still a little bit too white. Okay, to my eye, it still looks a little yellower here. So again, a little bit more yellow. Does it still feel a little darker? A little browner, perhaps? So we can either add the brown or the red directly. And remember, these are micro adjustments because I still want it to basically be that color. Sometimes it can take a whole day to mix exactly the colors you want, which is what's so nice about using a stay wet palette or a container, so that you can seal them up and then paint with them the following day. It's getting pretty close. Okay, it still feels a little bit darker on the paper than it does here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of all of the colors, which I could also just add the brown. Doesn't want it to be as much white as it has at the moment. One of my artist friends was telling me that she spends a few hours preparing her colors before she begins. And you can see that if you're looking for an exact color, it can take a while and patience. But you can really change your color to be exactly what you want. Okay, what do you think? I think that's pretty close. Okay, so I would call that one good. And let's put a nice little pile of it here. And then just for fun, let's go back. Just push a little of this off so I don't waste it after all that work. Now just for fun, let's go back and just mix the white and blue again and see how different it is. So here's the one I worked so hard to make. And the straight white and blue. Now, could I use both of those colors in my painting? Of course, absolutely. But look at how different they are. So let's go ahead and just put some of that paint down onto the canvas. So remember, the cardinal rule is have fun with it, right? So I like to have my colors go off the edge a bit and not float in the middle, but there are plenty of artists that love how they look floating in the middle, so that's fine too. Okay, and now let's see what happens if I add some of this next to it. Can you see the difference that the adding of the yellow and the red made to that blue? And how lovely it is to have both of those colors happening here in my composition. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix this tan color we were speaking about before. I need another sheet. Let's see if I can rip this off. So now I really need to be wearing my gloves. Let's see, washing in my bucket of water. See if I can get some of this off. And I'll put my gloves on. It was a mistake. I do this every week, don't I? I mean, every month. I get to put my gloves on. It's because I get so excited. Can't wait to show you guys. All right. So I reuse my gloves. If you blow into them, after you've taken them off and they're inside out, start to tuck them in and then blow. And it puts the outside back to the outside. Okay. So we had talked a minute ago about this color kind of looks like brown and white. So let's see if that's what it is. Let's finish up this white. Oops, I got that right on my painting. But that's okay, because I just started it. And you know me, I like to be impulsive on my paintings and just see what happens, because it's all about having fun. Okay, so I took all that time mixing up this brown out of my yellow, red, and blue. So let's just see if it's an equal amount. And remember what I said before, I believe that this color has a lot of white in it and not too much of the pigment. So I'm gonna like leave some of that to the side and just use a little, wee little bit. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't feel like that at all. Almost it feels like a violet, a light purple. It's a pretty color. I could use it if I love it, but it's not what my goal was right now. So again, we're going to do that same conversation in our head. This feels more yellow, red, or blue. Feels more yellow. So let's go ahead and add yellow. And I'm adding quite a bit of yellow because it looks a lot more yellow to me. That's getting a lot closer now, right? I didn't really think of this as a yellow color, but clearly there is a lot of yellow in it. All right, same conversation. This color feels more yellow. I think I might have enough yellow. More blue? No. More red? Yes. Can you see how this one's a little greener, which is yellow and blue? So therefore I need more red. Okay, I don't want to add too much. Red's a very strong color sometimes. So you want to just get to know the paints you have. Some of them are very strong. This particular red maybe isn't as strong as I was thinking. Sometimes I use one that's a lot stronger. Getting a lot closer. Okay, still it feels like it's a little redder, right? So let's go get even a little bit more red. And what if I went added too much red? Well, then I'll have to add more of the other colors back in. It's kind of a meditation in itself, mixing colors. What if that's all you enjoy doing? Then that's all you can do. That's fine. It's really an enjoyment to just play with art materials and let your mind relax. All right, we're getting closer. I think I have too much pigment. It's not white enough. Do you see? So I'm going to go ahead and make myself another pile of white. And add more white in. Getting closer. This still feels pinker than this, so that means I need possibly more yellow. It's getting very close here. This is slightly greener than this. What is green made of? Yellow and blue. So let me try adding the tiniest blue. Looks pretty good. And then again, I just like to dry my brush in between. What happens if we go and we start with the exact same set of things to see how different it is from where we started? So again, I'll start with white and I'll just add in that brown. Right? That's where we were when I said it's kind of a lilac color. And look at how different it became. Now, just because I was going for this color doesn't mean I can't also use that color. I just wanted you to have a sense of how you can mix. You might have noticed that today I didn't start with a drawing. That's because we were just talking about color mixing. And I'm starting in that playful mind again, enjoying here where some colors are starting to mix from what I did. Now this is going to be a very kind of calm colored painting, and it's all sort of light colors. So I'm going to want to bring in some darks as well. And happily I have some here that I can use that I mixed before. I'm going to change my brush I'm using so I get a variety of types of marks. Let's use some of this nice brown we made. Adding a little bit of water to it because it was starting to get dry. Now when we speak about composition, you'll remember that we always like to talk about moving your eye through a composition. So as I make a dark brown shape here, I want to look for other places to add some dark brown so that my eye can bounce between them. And that got sort of grayed out because it mixed. That's okay, I'll go back over it a little later. And I washed my brush because it got the lighter color on it. And remember that you can enjoy things like making drips as well. I always love me a good drip. And you can play with letting them curve and travel in different directions just by, as the water is flowing, altering the angle of your board. Okay. So let's follow the stories through. The blue I've got kind of in a nice amount of places. The tan color, it's sort of just all over here. So I might want to bring a little bit of it over here as well. Okay, a fun trick that we've spoken about too in the past is using a wider brush with more than one color on it at a time. So what if I take some of that kind of lilac on one side and the tan on the other side and just enjoy putting those both down. Letting them mix a bit. So I'm in the play part of the painting where I'm not thinking too much. I'm just seeing what can happen. My drip ended up getting covered for the most part. That's fine. So I'm looking at this and I'm wishing for something brighter. So what if I bring in some yellow? And I'm going to just tone it down a little bit with my other color so it's not so bright and out of context. This will help it make more sense with the piece. Because if it was straight yellow, it might have felt a little bit too bright. But having it mix a little bit with some of the colors that I've been making makes it relate more to it. Each time you hold a tool, what's some new way you can use it? Can you scratch with it from the back? Can you hold it with your wrong hand? Our wrong hand makes very different marks than our dominant hand. Still craving some darker areas, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of this blue I had out, squeezed out, some of this red that I squeezed out, and make a nice dark purple color. Well, it's more of a navy, so that means I need more red. Oh, I kind of like how it looks not mixed. And this is about being present. I knew I was making kind of a dark purple color. I could have kept just mixing and mixing till it became that. But I looked at what was happening and I liked it. And so therefore, I'm going to use it like that so that I get some of that quality in here. And sometimes the best laid plans, you know, it doesn't come out how you thought it would, but it might. So you might notice that I'm kind of like rolling my paintbrush to get those qualities into it, because otherwise it's just mixing on my canvas. The variation in the colors is a lot of what makes a painting really interesting. So even though I already had this lovely brown mixed, if I have parts of it that have more red in it, or this tan, parts of it that have more light in it, the blue's pretty flat still. What can I do to that? Let's make part of it be greener. So, by adding more yellow. Sometimes I like to blend an edge with my finger. That's one of the reasons I like to wear gloves. I have a hard edge and a soft edge. So I think that the lessons from today are look for variations within your colors and mixing colors. I'm not going to take this painting further today because it needs to dry, and I believe we're about at our half an hour. But I hope that you enjoyed learning about color mixing. So if we look at this painting here, I'll go up close in a minute. You can see a huge variety. Like if you look within the mustard color, there are areas that are lighter, greener, grayer. Huge variety within it. If I look at this little kind of greenish blue area, look at all the colors within there. So the trick is to look for variations in your colors to create more interest. Well, I just went back to edit my video and I saw that part of the painting was cut off from the camera view, and I'm so sorry about that. I can imagine that must have been very frustrating. But anyway, I still hope that you learned a lot about color mixing, and I hope that you'll come visit me over at the gallery in the studio. I love having visitors Wednesdays to Saturdays from 11 to 3. And it's Bedrick Fine Art. And I thought I would just show sort of where we got to today so you could see the whole thing. Here's the, the balancing dark areas and the variation in the blue with the greenish color, and the variations in the tan color with the lighter color. So sorry about that getting cut off, but I hope that you still were able to see enough. Okay, bye.